So I'm Huon Hooke, this is The Real Review, and I'm talking to Rob Gibson, who is the famous face and the founder, the owner, the winemaker, the viticulturist of Gibson Wines in the Barossa Valley. And of course, Gibson Wines is one of our top wineries for 2021 for The Real Review. Congratulations, Rob, and good to see you. Good to see you online.
Good to be here.
And you're famous for calling yourself the Dirt Man because you're first and foremost a viticulturist, aren't you?
That's right, yeah. I call it wine growing, but viticulturist is my main game, I guess. That's where I've earned my bread and butter over the years.
You worked for Penfolds, I think, managing their vineyards before you set up Gibson Wines.
That's right, yeah. We Andrew Pike and myself worked very closely together across the whole group of 6,000 hectares, I think we ended up with.
And we have plenty of evidence that of your status as a dirt man. You might remember this book.
Yeah, I do.
There's a picture of you wearing very little, buried in a hole in your vineyard and pouring a glass of wine, as you do, of course.
That's right. It was all about dirt. It's not actually dirt. You can get it against your skin.
It's actually quite healthy, especially when you look after the soil as you have to do when you're growing good fruit, don't you?
That's right. That's exactly right.
And Rob, you're a special advocate for old Barossa vines with your Australian Old Vine Collection wines. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, well, it started with Carl Lindner back in, when was that? That was the late 90s. And, you know, Carl being a bit of a historian and myself into antiquity, particularly of grape wines, we started to have a look at preserving some vineyards that were very small and insignificant at that point in time. So they've certainly grown to be quite a significant thing since that late 90s, in the last 20 odd years, because they are treasures. They were gardens planted near houses in suburbia often. And so they were always under threat of being actually overcome by development, but also, you know, the vagaries of being adjacent to the family orchard as well. So it was a job of saving them for preservation for the future, and even transplanting some of them. So certainly a passion of mine, and the wines are lovely. They're not necessarily typical Barossa, and I know, you know, some of my winemaker friends over the years have said, oh, you know, they're a bit light, you know, they're not necessarily as big in structure as a lot of other grapes and the resultant wine, but the reality is, in the world wine, they fit beautifully in terms of weight and style.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about, Rob, you've been celebrating your various milestone birthdays with a series of wonderful, sumptuous Cabernet Shiraz blends. And tell us about the latest one.
Yeah, the latest one, Bin 70. I turned 70 4 days ago now. Don't feel that old, to be quite honest, most of the time. But the Bin 70 is a very elegant Barossa Shiraz. Essentially, the Bin range was a bit of Gibbo sort of saying, well, it's worth a peg in the ground when you get to 60 in this industry. Guys like Viv Thompson and various others will vouch for the fact that, you know, you get a few cuts and bruises along the way, but, you know, it's worth putting celebrating, you know, 40, 50 odd years in the wine industry. So that's what started the Bin range. And I thought, oh, well, I loved the Bin 60 initially, which was a Shiraz Cabernet. And then, I went to Bin 65. Why not?
Is there a wine that you hold up as in very high regard as being one of the wines that really inspired you throughout your career?
62 St Henri. It was a classy, really classy wine, and I think style-wise, it's still one of my favourite styles out of Penfolds. When I sort of early days were getting into appreciating wine, and I'd come back from New Zealand in 74, started over there and with Penfolds there, and then came here in 75. And soon after, I think 76, they had a sort of a bin end release of 62 St Henri, would you believe?
Gosh, so you mean they discounted it? Because 62 is one of the great vintages of all time, I think, in Australia.
I can still taste it. It's just enormous. Only wine that's sort of come close to it is a wine I had the other day, which was a 98 RWT. And, some similarities in terms of that extraordinary complexity that's just so classy. That's what I'm raving about at the moment.
And Rob, is there one of your wines that is your personal favourite? Which wine would you enjoy drinking the most?
Well, I mean, everybody asks me that question, and I keep saying it's like children, you can't have favourites. However, right now I'm loving the Bin 60. There's a bit of bottle variation starting to creep into that 2008, so I'm indulging myself a bit more heavily in the stocks on that wine because I'm checking corks. So
So it's a quality control operation. You have to keep opening them and making sure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't do recorking. I just drink the bloody thing.
Thank you, Rob Gibson. It's been great talking to you, and congratulations on being one of the top wineries of the year 2021, and look forward to seeing your wines at our exhibitions upcoming. Cheers, Rob.
Bye-bye.